Hi friends, and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to show you how to make this granny square sweater. This was one of the first projects I did after learning to crochet, so it's definitely beginner friendly and really easy. All you're doing is joining squares together. So we'll start with making a granny square, and then I'll show you how to join them into the sweater. So grab your yarn, hook, and maybe a cup of tea, and let's get started. So we're going to start by making a magic ring. And to do that, we'll take our yarn and make a cross, like so, over 2 fingers. And then you'll take your hook and go underneath that first string and pull up a loop from the second one. The way this was described to me is that you make a little pretzel. And I always look now for that pretzel when I make my magic ring to know that I did it correctly. So then you're going to start with a chain 3. You yarn over and pull up a loop 3 times, and this will count as your first double crochet. Next, we're going to make a double crochet into our magic ring, and we'll start by yarning over and going into the magic ring, pulling up a loop so that you will now have 3 loops on your crochet hook, and you can count them here on mine. 1, 2, 3. Next, you're going to yarn over and pull through those first 2 loops on your hook. Yarn over again and pull through the last 2 to complete your first double crochet of the granny square. Now we're going to make another double crochet into the magic ring, and you'll just be repeating the process we just did. And we now have our first 3 double crochet cluster of our granny square. We will now make the first corner by chaining 2. Going back into the magic ring, we will make 3 more double crochets. In this first round, 1 double crochet cluster makes up a whole side of the granny square, so we're going to repeat this process 4 times. Now you can start to see the shape of the granny square coming together. So we just did our last chain 2 for the final corner, and we will now join our work to that first chain 3 double crochet of the first cluster. Inserting your hook into the 3rd stitch of that first chain 3, we're going to do a slip stitch to join our work. To do a slip stitch, you'll yarn over and pull your loop right through the loop that was already on your hook. And there we go, we've got the first round completed of our granny square. So now we can pull that tail of our magic ring tight to close the circle, and you've got a nice tight center for your granny square. Let's take a look at our sweater. You can see there are 2 rounds around this granny square, making it bigger than the one we just created. So we're going to crochet another round on our pink granny square to make it the right size. We'll start by chaining 3, and again this will count as the first double crochet. We'll then do 2 more double crochet into that first corner of our first round of the granny square. Next, we're going to chain 2 to create a new corner, and then do 3 more double crochets into that first corner. And you can see here our nice new corner of the second round taking form. Next, you're going to chain 1, and then going into the second corner of the first round, we'll do 3 double crochet, chain 2, 3 double crochet into that same corner to create the second corner of the second round of our granny square. We'll repeat this process going around, chaining 1, and then creating a corner by doing 3 double crochet, chain 2, 3 double crochet into the corners of the first round of our granny square. To finish our second round, we'll chain 1 after the last corner and then create a slip stitch into the top of the first chain 3 that we did at the beginning of the round. We now have our finished granny square, so we can go ahead and fasten off our yarn by pulling up a loop and pulling the last piece through. Don't forget to weave in your ends to finish your square. Yay, she's looking so pretty! Again, taking a look at our sweater, you can see I added a white border around each square. So let's go ahead and add a white border to our pink square. To do this, we'll make a slip knot, which is the same process as the magic ring, but we pull it tight like so. We then take our white yarn and connect it to our granny square by going into any stitch and doing a single crochet. So you pull up a loop and then pull through for that first single crochet. And again, it can be anywhere as a starting point on your granny square. Now we're just going to be making single crochets all around our granny square. When you get to a corner, you'll do 2 single crochet into the corner space, chain 2, 2 more single crochet into the same corner space from the second round, and then continuing on single crochets all around our granny square. When we get to the end of our round, you're going to join with a slip stitch to that first single crochet. And there we go! Oh, it's looking so pretty! I love, love, love the granny square. It's just such a good basic building block for crochet projects. So speaking of which, you're going to want to take measurements of your granny square because you'll be repeating this process as many times as you need for your sweater. And because it's the basic building block of your sweater, you're going to want to measure the length and width because we'll use those measurements later to know how many squares you'll need for your sweater. Once you've made all of your granny squares, the next step is to join them together to form the sweater. Instead of filming the whole sewing process, which can get a little messy to show on camera, I drew a diagram in my sketchbook to make it really clear. So here's the layout. Each little square in the drawing represents one of the granny squares you just made. I've arranged them into the shape of a sweater, the front panel, the back panel, and the sleeves. You'll start by joining squares together in rows to create 2 big rectangles for the front and another bigger rectangle for the back. You can join the squares together using a simple whip stitch with your tapestry needle, or if you prefer more texture, you can crochet them together with single crochets. So you can see here from my drawing of the front panel that I have 2 rows on each side of 4 granny squares, and I'm leaving that middle seam open. For the back of my sweater, I ended up using 4 rows of 4 granny squares each, so 16 granny squares total for the back panel. This is the point where you'll use the measurements of your granny square to match up with the measurement of a sweater you already own, for example, to see how many squares you'll need so that your sweater fits. If you want to make your sweater bigger, you can add rows along the side, and if you want more of a cropped look, you can add fewer rows along the bottom. Once you have the front and back, you'll stitch them together at the shoulders, leaving space in the middle for your neckline. Then you'll connect down the sides, stopping partway so you'll still have room for your arms to go through. Finally, the sleeves. You'll join squares into long strips and then loop them into tubes. Those tubes will get attached to the armholes we left open. For the sleeves of my sweater, I ended up using rows of 4, and I did 3 of them. But the beauty of the granny square sweater is that if you want longer sleeves, you can add squares, and if you prefer a shorter look, you can use fewer. So I'm showing you two views of my sleeves. One is after it's been folded into a tube, and the other is before, so you can see that top square is where we join the front and back panel at the shoulder. Here's an aerial view of the sweater so you can see all of the pieces spread out and how they come together. So that's the basic construction. Once all your panels are joined, you'll have the full sweater shape. After that, you can add finishing touches like a border around the neckline or cuffs to make it look polished. I did a scalloped edge along the neckline, the bottom, and the edge of the sleeves. If you'd like to see that tutorial in a future video, let me know. And that's it! Your granny square sweater is complete. I love how customizable this project is, and I hope this video helped to make the process a little easier to follow. If you make one, I'd love to see your version. Feel free to tag me or share in the comments. Thank you so much for spending time with me today. If you enjoyed this tutorial, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and subscribe for more cozy projects and creative ideas. I hope you have a beautiful day. Happy crocheting!